just like that, it's another Thursday night, another episode of the Indie Escape Network presents The Sticky Microphone with special guest, actress, producer, and writer, wow, I can almost speak tonight, Sasha Graham. So let me remove that. How are we all doing tonight?
Hey, how are ya?
Excellent.
Hey.
So how's
It's
everybody
all
doing?
good in Canada. It's nice
How's
and warm.
Canada?
It's not smoky.
Yeah, thanks for sending us that smoke.
Yeah, really. If I see another picture of a sun that looks burned out or whatever,
Yeah.
coming up there.
We're coming up to
Lots
get
of
you.
good movies to film in the fog.
It's a cheap way to film horror movies right now.
Yeah.
It's
We're
looking
coming
pretty
down
fun.
there to film.
Yeah, that's right. We might be getting you in New York, so that'll
You
be
don't want
we'll
to
have
come
already posted.
up here.
So, but Joe, you have some stuff to impart before we introduce our guest. Do you want to do some promo stuff? Go ahead.
I would love to do a little housekeeping if I could, please.
Yeah.
Please join us Sunday night on the end of the night. The Indie Escape Network presents The End of the Night with David Lee Madison, Sunday, July 9th, 10 p.m. Eastern, with special guest actor John Biner. Also, coming up in September, we have Phantasm Orlando, a paranormal and horror convention. There are a ton of celebrities that are going to be there. Please join us. I'll be representing the Indie Escape Network there, along with J.W. Colwell. And I think there's one other thing we got to touch on. Wow. You almost looked like you were paying attention.
Me? I was looking at my notes here.
So, everybody that's tuning in for the first time, please don't forget to go to our socials, the Indie Escape Network on Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. I think it's the first time I got all the symbols right.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's right. I recognize them all. My kids will think I'm cool because I know, right? It's for a long time I called it Twatter, but I think that's
Twatter. We got Mr. David Lee Madison.
Hey, David.
So David, yes, we just plugged that. Sunday night, join us, 10 p.m. Eastern. David's been on a little bit of a hiatus. Lucky bastard.
Yeah. Well, we all kind of were a little bit. It's been a little bit for us too. But all right, so I'm going to get down to the business here. I'm really excited because this gal that we have, this lady, is not just, she's also a friend. Have you heard of the movie actress? She's not just a scream queen, Sasha Graham. Tell you a little bit about Sasha before you bring her on. Like I said, she's more than a scream queen, but her movies date back to the mid-90s. She started with Addicted to Murder, which was a big one for her. She did Polymorph, was really, really, really big in the Tempe movies, Tempe films. Bloodletting was a big one for her as well. Really, as recently, she's done Brimstone Incorporated, where she was a fantastic part, Mama's Boy. Her name was Christa, had a part in that. She's was in Shriekshow, if I could say it right. Trivial, which I also had a little part in, is coming out soon, and Side Effects May Vary, where we work together on, coming out pretty soon. But in addition to that, she is also a tarot author and tarot deck creator, teaching the magic of tarot, created the tarot deck, Darkwood Tarot. She uses the metaphysical properties of tarot to talk about it. We'll kind of talk about that. She speaks, lectures, coaches all over the world. She writes about solitary magic and witchcraft, and started and hosts Ghost Stories by the Fire in New York City. So I think I got that all out.
So what you're saying is she's an underachiever.
She's an underachiever. She sits home and watches New Jersey Housewives like me. So,
okay.
She was just in India. I mean, she gets around. She does stuff. So without further ado, let's bring on the beautiful, gorgeous, young-looking Sasha Graham.
Hi.
Did I get it right?
No, thank you, Wendy. Oh my God.
I got it. Yeah, I mean, Sasha, I'm so glad to have you on. And I forgot to ask you. So you're in, if I can ask, do you live in, I don't know why, we talked about the Flatiron district, but did you ever live in Brooklyn, or no? Is that just where you do?
In Brooklyn, no, that's just where I do a lot of my events in Brooklyn.
Okay. Well, yeah. So everybody, I mean, before we get started, Sasha, what do give us some stuff. What's some things going on with you now?
Oh man. So I just had a tarot deck, mass market tarot deck at the market. So I did I'm just coming off a mini book tour where I was going around the East Coast to bookstores, signing decks and like doing classes, and that was called Tarot of the Witch's Garden, which was like a cottage core witchcraft deck, like perfect for summer. And now I'm diving in. I'm doing like some summer teaching and touring. I'm gonna be out in Los Angeles next week, teaching up in the Berkshires at the end of the month. I'll be teaching at Hex Fest down in New Orleans in August with a bunch of witches. And I mean, I'm like super excited to go do that. Yeah, so I'm working on some new projects that I can't quite disclose yet, but I can say it is very horror tarot inclusive.
Is that like one of your decks? I think the one I got from my oldest daughter, the haunted. It was like haunted.
Tarot of the Haunted House.
Yeah, really cool, everybody. If you want to check that out. And I wanted to ask you before I forgot. Is Enchantments one of my favorite stores when I lived in New York? Was on 9th Street, and
Yes.
Jamie, you'd love it. It's got, you go in and they make candles for you with glitter and spells and oils, and it was just like everybody went there in the East Village back in the days.
It's bomb. It's super old school. It's like, and it's a great place to bring anybody into that kind of has never experienced like magic before, because it really kind of harkens back to the vibe of like 70s and 80s hardcore witchcraft stores. Like, you walk in, you're not exactly feeling welcome, which was why whenever I would go in and see my books on the shelves, I was like, oh, I am not worthy witches. Enchantments is awesome.
You're a worthy witch. And, so like we were talking about, you sort of have put the two careers together side by side. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? I mean, you got into film, segued into metaphysical. Just how do they work together? Kind of give us your path. Give us
Well, so it's definitely connected in like a really interesting way. So when I started acting, I was already like, I loved horror and I loved vampires and I loved the supernatural. And inevitably that's what I got cast as. But like, I was never a final girl. I was always a supernatural creature in these movies. I was never like the wife or the girlfriend, the side piece, or like the chick in a, like running like in a wet t-shirt about to get knifed. I was like the vampire, the mafia hit chick, the gargoyle.
Right.
I was always
like in Bloodletting, you were like the hippie chick that ran the
video store, the lesbian, and so I always played these like over the top, really baller characters, and I think that my attraction from the beginning to the supernatural and to like vampire stuff was trying to find my power, right? As like a teenager growing up in the 80s, I felt super disenfranchised, Gen X, you guys probably all relate. And so I think that like vampires and horror and goth and all of that stuff gave me a place with which I could explore that power. And that came through in the work that I did in the movies. And then when I started doing tarot, I mean, like a decade later, I realized when I was doing tarot for myself and for other people, that's also about helping people tap into their supernatural power. And so they're actually, tarot and horror are very, very similar, because if you think of the archetype of the tarot reader, you go into this dark, velvety room, there's a dramatic woman in a beautiful scarf, and she's all made up and lighting candles and incense, and she's, and you might see it. It's a very heightened sensual experience, just like watching a horror movie. So to me, it's very much the same thing.
Right. I kind of read that like you married the two together and how that intertwined in one of your interviews. I think that's, and then you also gardening, how you have your new deck or your new book coming out about gardening. Gardening is very magical to you. Jamie, are you a gardener? I thought you said you were. Maybe you're.
I am. I like to garden too.
Yay! Are you like flowers and veg?
Everything? I'm trying. We've had really weird weather, so we bought this place and I had to start from beginning. So I have a tomato plant and I have some sweet peas, so I have a little bit of both. So
that's nice.
We're working on it. We're just trying to get the grass to grow.
It's a weird year. Nothing's growing this year. It's bizarre. Even my pear tree has like no pears on it.
My peach tree, I have this beautiful peach tree that died a few years ago. And I know my neighbors are mad at me because it's sitting out in the front of my yard. And it used to have like so many peaches. People would stop by, they get out of their car and go, "Can I have some peaches?" I'm like, "Sure, we have thousands." But I had my second ex-husband built these beautiful garden beds, like those raised garden beds. We had vegetables and tomatoes. As soon as he left, I'm like, yeah, they're gonna die. It's weeds. It looks like like Vince, like literally, it's so terrible. Like Vincent Price would be like narrating over these things. It's disgusting. So that's my vegetable story.
Hey, we got a huge garden down here.
You do?
Oh, like a quarter of our property is probably garden right now. Between peppers, tomatoes,
is that you or the wife?
jalapenos. No, that's the wife and daughter. That's not me. I eat the stuff. I don't grow it. I'd probably kill it.
You reap the rewards.
Exactly.
Do you have it all year round down there?
For the most part, usually December and January is a little iffy, but other than that, yes. Guys, I wanted to hit a couple of comments real fast, if I may, please. We got Ken saying, "Good evening, friends." We have Star Allen saying, "Way cool." Libby McDermott, 5G. I don't know what that was pertaining to. I'm sorry, Libby.
Hey, Libby.
And I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. Actor, director, writer, Libby McDermott. Check out her flicks on Tubi. Sorry, had to do it.
I
love Libby. And
sure.
I'd be your third ex-husband.
Listen, I've been divorced twice. By the third divorce, like I said, I'm going to be really good at it because I'll know exactly how to do it. So.
But keep in mind, Ken's Canadian, so you can have dual citizenship.
Oh, interesting.
And we got Molly Zombie. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Oh, the plant's not growing. Okay.
Oh,
gotcha.
So 5G, does that mean like the network because the plants are not growing? Oh, interesting. Maybe code.
I just wanted to hit comments.
Yep.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, we get lots of comments.
Yeah, it's the internet. So the 5G affects the way plants grow, right?
Really?
You can hear them, but not with the 5G.
You know, that's weird that you said that. I've heard that. Like they did an experiment and showed the phone with it. I didn't even think it was the network. That's really interesting. I didn't put that together. Well, anyways, so getting back to growing and gardening and all of that kind of things, is that that's part of like the tarot experience with this newest book. So I'm really interested in that.
Yeah, because I think the garden's a perfect kind of metaphor for the universe. And what's great about like working magic in your garden, like unlike if you're a witch who's casting spells, in the garden, you can really see on a day-to-day basis how things are like growing and manifesting. And gardens are a great metaphor for magic too, because you can like kind of you plot and you plan, but then the garden takes on a life of its own. You know, you can weed all you want, but at a certain point you have to be a bit hands-off because nature will also like have its way. And I think that's very true of magic, you know, and like the best kind of spells that we cast, we'll put our intentions, our desires out there. But when we're done, we have to step back and kind of let the other, whatever you want to call it, do its part. And I think that, I think gardens are sacred space, you know? I think they're sacred space of manifestation. Yeah. So I was excited after doing two really kind of dark and shadowy decks to put something in a bright, like,
Do you think your trip to India, like how did that kind of influence you and when we talked, I don't know if you had come back somewhat recently, but we talked about it. You told me how magical and beautiful it was. And Jaime, she was telling me like she saw cows that were had beautiful colors on them and all kinds of crazy stuff that you just said was just such a beautiful experience there.
Yeah, it was so I'm an avid Ashtanga practitioner, which is a very specific type of yoga, and so much of Western mysticism, witchcraft, and spiritual stuff really has its roots in the Himalayas, in Eastern philosophy and religion and Eastern psychology. And so and my heart, I was fortunate enough to travel. I've traveled in China and I've been to Tibet and been to the Himalayas. And so it's interesting to be on top of the world, but then all of the Himalayas tends to be that place where everybody from Asia, all of like the wise sages, like kind of all go up and kind of meet each other and exchange ideas. And then the same way that the rivers flow from the glaciers, you know, at the tip of the Himalayas, all of that philosophy gets kind of mixed up and filters down. And so I knew it was a matter of time before I'd be able to go to India. And it was like being on a Star Wars planet, you know. It was just, I can't wait to return. It is like anything that you would imagine how amazing it would be. It was like 10 times better. It smelled like, it smelled delicious and herby, and there were monkeys and
well, I saw this post that I was trying to find it, so it was just really beautiful. And you had said in this post when you're there, because you know I follow you as a friend and everything, that you had said everybody had a breakfast and they had meditated and they came back out, and everybody, all these women around the table started discussing tarot, and all of a sudden it became this beautiful in-depth conversation that organically unfolded. The magic, it just sounded like, I'm like, oh, why? I feel bad that I'm sitting here eating ho-hos watching Real Housewives of New Jersey. I should be doing something spiritual, but you know.
Right? Get off your ass.
There is a deep spirituality in the Housewife franchise. Let's get real.
Yes, absolutely. You know, there's some people go, you know, to Tibet to seek spirituality. I go to New Jersey, but I'm just saying. But go ahead. So, yes, I think that's fantastic.
Jersey. You got nothing.
You got nothing on that. Is there? Where's like the spiritual Mecca in Canada, Jamie? Is there one? Is there like, I mean, Vancouver is pretty, the mountains.
Go to Banff. Go to Jasper.
Jasper?
Go to Banff.
Where's Jasper?
Banff. Jasper is just north of Banff.
Oh.
You go to both.
I've never been.
So Edmonton, Banff is close to Calgary.
Okay.
So,
have you been to Canada, Sasha?
Yeah, I've been last year. I mean, I had gone on some school trips, you know, up to Montreal when I was a kid, but there's a beautiful tarot community up in Kingston, Ontario. And I was there last year, and I'll be back again in the fall of 2024 to present some more shadow work stuff. And yeah, Canada's amazing. It's like, I love it.
Yeah, and Ontario. You were in Ontario. Ontario's full of little lakes everywhere. It's the biggest piece of Canada, really, that in Quebec. So there's lots of trees and lots of lakes. Alberta's more flat, so that's why they call us the prairies. And then right when you go to BC, that's why you have Jasper and Banff. You go through all the Rocky Mountains. You have to go through that.
Were you saying I'm not getting this place? Are you saying BAM or BAM? What is that?
Banff. BANFF. Banff.
Banff? Oh,
Yeah.
What? I've never heard of Banff.
Banff.
I hope it is prettier than it sounds, but Banff. It's made in Banff. Well, so Sasha, believe me, I could talk about tarot and witchcraft all day. Oh, Canada has 879,000 lakes. I didn't know that. Thanks, Canada. My goodness. I have to know, Sasha, what's your favorite movie that you've done?
Oh, that I've been in? Oh my God. That's such a crazy question. Immediately I want to say Trivial, only because that was very recent in my. So Trivial we shot that for, oh gosh,
you were there for at least a week, weren't you?
Yeah, 2 or 3 weeks. No, it was 2 weeks. So this was last year. So I play a deranged like a female Bob Barker with an accent.
Yeah, it was like you were, and I know, I'm sure he wrote that for you because nobody else could have done that part, Sasha.
Yeah, I feel like it was like that was the female James role, like coming out. So that was I love doing that. Number one, because I starred in the movie, so it was like I was there in every scene. So of course, as an actor, you're like, oh, this is awesome, right? And I got to torture, maim, kill, and act with a lot.
Right, it's all men, Jamie. She gets to get back at men. I won't tell you the reveal, but basically she tortures and really hurts men and kills them, and in the end they sort of deserve it, I guess. But
kind of, sort of.
maybe.
I don't really think it was warranted, but for me, it was very cathartic for me. But what I thought was, what I found was interesting, and I hadn't. It had been at least 20, 25 years since I really balls to the wall was in a film that required that much acting, and so or that much work, and I was surprised at how much I'd grown as an artist. And that was.
You can kill me in a movie. That's from my friend.
I would be more than happy to kill you.
He's hysterical. He's great. He's a nice guy. But I have to tell you, I've seen the footage, and you are phenomenal. I mean, amazing. It's a great movie. I can't wait till it comes out. I think we're this close. It's close.
Yeah, but it's funny. You guys know, right? Like, it's an interesting thing because the movie itself almost doesn't matter, because for the actors, it's the experience of making the movie that you take away with you.
Right.
Right? Do you guys both agree?
Well, yeah. I mean, you've done way more than me. I mean, it's kind of like that with a play too. Even it's the experience of the people that you're with, and how much fun you have. I mean. And it's like if you have a really good part. But yes, I agree.
You create a family and and as an actor.
Oh, definitely. Family. You said it. Family.
I know, because Jamie, you're kind of the same. She works kind of the same way that James does too. We're like, you have right, Jamie, like a network of people that you work closely with. And
there's a good network in Edmonton. There's probably about 40 different people that communicate and work on different sets and recommend people, and it's a family, so that's how we all know. So and so's available for this one. So I just got a time on set that I get to go to now to be a set decorator. So more PA stuff, and it's only because people reach out, and I'm creative, I'm artsy. Hopefully, I get to do some arts and crafts, because it's horror, of course, like some icky looking stuff. So
that's Grotesque. Right?
No, this is a new one. That's a brand new one now.
Oh, I'm excited.
Grotesque has been a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, Jamie, that's on me. I meant to go. That's like one that I need to see you in, because I keep saying I'm going to. I want to see Jamie in that. But wait, somebody just said something. Were you born on Halloween?
Yes.
Did you say that? I missed that.
I don't know if I ever told you that. Yeah. Thank you, Ken. You're 100% right. I know. I always say I was kind of predestined to do all of this, right? As a Halloween baby, yeah.
Oh my God, that is really interesting. I did not know that, and that does sort of. I mean, that has to say something for you, right? If you're born on Halloween, you're destined to be in horror or be in the occult.
Honestly, I totally took it as a sign that I was a witch. And I had a grandmother who she lived in Iowa. She would call me the good witch of the East. She would call herself the good witch of the West and the good witch of the East.
So, I've meant to ask you this, because I love Wiccan and stuff and dabbled in it. I mean, when I was younger and stuff. But my question is, what is a kitchen witch? What does that mean?
What is a kitchen witch?
Yeah, what does that mean?
Kitchen witch is usually a kitchen witch refers to someone who does magic with cooking spells.
I make meatloaf, and the way that I do it, because I make it with love and special spices and love, so that is a kitchen witch.
100% kitchen.
Okay, yeah, my meatloaf is kitchen. There's kitchen witchery going on when I make it. I think it's good.
100%. And one of my favorite ways to kind of kitchen witch around is actually to communicate with your vegetable, with the ingredients from the moment you're in the store shopping or at the farmer's market. So when you're really paying attention to either, I don't know, the world around. If you go, you can kind of, if you're in the right zone, things will kind of leap out to you. It's almost like a tarot reading. Like when I'm looking at a multi-card spread, it's kind of like those remember those 3D books where you like fuzz out your eyes and it would like
yeah.
in 3D. That's what tarot reading and quite often like often like the world looks like to me when I'm looking for information or signs. So I'll be able sometimes, not always, but to really kind of communicate with the ingredients and figure out the best way that they want to be made. Yeah, and then that creates magic around the table. And I mean, and like, although I don't refer to myself exclusively as a kitchen witch, but like the kitchen table is such a great place to do spells. It's where I did my first like real spell was at the kitchen table. It's the heart of the home. You know, you've got all four corners. It's
calling the corners of the kitchen table.
Yes.
Ooh. Sasha's definitely. Oh, Derek says you're definitely the good witch. You are a good witch.
I try and be. I try.
Because I can make a hell of a roast. You know what? I gotta tell you, I like the kitchen witch stuff. Like when I have like a cooking fail, that means that my witchcraft has gone bad. But I love that you communicate with vegetables. I ate a vegetable, I think in 1987 once. Salads, I have to literally make myself. The only way I can eat a salad even really and enjoy it is like if you take a giant wedge of iceberg and just put blue cheese and bacon on it. I'm like, I got to get better about eating my vegetables. I got to try real hard.
Yeah.
Good.
Gardening helps. Gardening helps when you grow them, right? When you're like there the whole time. It tastes,
That's true. I actually, when we did grow vegetables, we used it. I made salsa and stuff, and I'm like, that tasted good because we grew it. We grew it in our garden. Now it's all dead, but back then it was pretty darn good. Had a lot of tomatoes. It's so dead. I'll send you a picture later. It's literally weeds and twigs. It's so sad. It was so beautiful, and now it's all gone.
We've got like tragic red sun.
Oh, yeah.
Sun and tumbleweeds.
Tumbleweeds. Evil, like a troll going by. Just, it's so bad.
The deer are even like, no, thank you.
But I think that's interesting. I mean, back in the day, like I remember, and I mean, when I studied Wiccan, this would have been so like maybe the early 90s. When I was in the South, and not, we're Jewish, it's not like that, but I mean, you get some judging going on, and people didn't understand it back then. Back then, even I think, I don't know if this was your experience. They're like, are you consorting with the devil? I mean, it just got real weird. People really had a
hilarious because witchcraft, Christianity, Judaism, it's all the same thing. It all uses the candles, the incense, the freezing energy. And the difference with witchcraft is that it's self-directed. It's self-directed. And of course, organized religion, wants there to be a hierarchy and wants the priest or the rabbi or the guru or whoever to speak for the flock. But witchcraft is, I mean, I honestly feel like all of us, right, in this world, the way we interface with the material world is different. And I always say, like, what a peach tastes like to you is different than a peach tastes like to Wendy. Like how we're intuitive, how we're talented, how we're witchy. It's as unique as our kiss. And so witchcraft and spell work, yoga, all of these things allow you to start to kind of figure out, like, what are your magical superpowers? How can you take back control and not only control, but also experiment and play with mystery, because none of us do anything alone,
I love that. Joe, what do you think?
Well, I've actually got a question pertaining to that. So I think it was the early 90s, mid 90s, the movie The Craft came out. Okay, so how do you feel about movies like that coming out representing what witchcraft, Wiccan is?
So I thank you for even mentioning that, because I had some props. Some of my things were optioned in Hollywood. So it was really interesting to take some kind of high-level Hollywood meetings with studios who were interested in tarot, because since the pandemic, tarot and astrology was trending so hard on TikTok and Instagram. But nobody in Hollywood, the decision makers, really knew what to do with it or how to explain to it. everybody was very comfortable putting tarot in serial killer movies, like Seven style. Like, oh, a serial killer who leaves a tarot card. That makes sense to them. And they would greenlight those pictures all the way. But when I had to come up with my comps, what did I have? I had The Craft, Practical Magic, Hocus Pocus.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And then Ken said the TV show Charmed, which I agree.
Oh, right. And then you have the W.
Over.
Yeah, that's off the WB. Like female witches and all that stuff is on the CW, and the WB is like. But yeah, for like mainstream, like I love The Craft. I love all those movies. But all those movies, what, 3 of them? Like they're so few and far between. Like and it's shocking to me to this day that like. Yeah, it's hands off and Hollywood's like afraid. I don't know. But horror gives us all of that. Horror gives us all these like wild, witchy, baller protagonists. Amazing movies like The Witch. Like the horror genre is ripe with powerful women. But like, oh no, like give us, The Witches of Eastwick and Hocus Pocus. Well, I'm like, I have to refer to movies from the 80s. To even come up with 5.
I liked the movies, The Witches of Eastwick. That was a good movie.
Right.
But then it was like you had a harem of witches. Like,
yeah,
great. Like,
right. I mean, it was interesting because I was in a coven back like in the 90s when I did this. Before New York even, and there were 2 of the people in it were men, and my friends who didn't understand, they were like, men can do that. I'm like, yes, yeah, they can, of course. And again, it was just. People they weren't aware of it. You understand. I mean, the awareness like in 92 or 91, nobody really knew.
Very closet, like very closeted, very closed, very secretive. Yeah, I mean, it was just even 10, I mean, when my first book came out, my first tarot book came out in 2011, and it right before social media was a thing.
Yeah.
Where everybody could like kind of find people to, and it was just, it was like a back of the bookstore type deal. You'd have to take like a correspondence course or hopefully have some like witch books like to ride a silver broomstick or and craft has come a long way, and I'm really happy that like during the pandemic people had such an opportunity to like express themselves spiritually, creatively, witchcraftily, because now it's everywhere.
I wish you would do like a YouTube or something like that. You would offer like some sort of course like where we could all tune in, because I would love to go to one of your workshops or lectures. I mean, I think there's so much to learn from you.
Thank you. I have a really cool shadow thing coming out. It's a free thing with a Theosophical Society later on this month. So I'll put that information up. But yeah.
Yes, definitely, and link it to me too.
Awesome.
And I had another question. So you've been married for how long? Yeah.
Oh gosh, we've been together for 30 years.
Oh.
30 years! We're so old.
So I was gonna ask when you weren't married and when you did your first film. Like, did you have a crush on set? I never asked James that if you had a love interest on set on any of my movies.
I have a love interest everywhere I go because I fall in love on the reg. I just do. Like, how can you not?
You mean with the film, or do you have like a showmance? Where you just have the showmance with somebody in the movie?
I just fall in love with everyone. Like, I really do. Like, that's why I love living in New York City. I fall in love on like every block. Like,
It's so eclectic. One of my and you know what I'm talking about. My favorite thing living there, we might have talked about this, and I lived all over, just walking and going and seeing. I mean, even after years and years of living there, just walking through the different neighborhoods and the different feel, like when you go from, the Upper West Side to the Theater District to Chelsea to the Village. I mean, it was I loved going out and doing that. It was just wonderful. Shops and stores and people and food vendors and blah blah. It's this amazing experience to live there, to live in the city.
So super fun. Yeah. So I'm always like crushing on people and falling in love with people. I mean, I think we all are. I think that's a very like human thing, and of course that happened. Like, you know, when especially when you're like making movies and like I live for a kissing scene. Like I love scene. I just love it, love it.
Yeah, because now, and Jamie, I don't know if you've had this experience. I have, you know, I had one in a play, but I've never been in a film or anything except one musical that I did where I would kiss somebody. I would imagine kissing somebody on screen. I think it would be horrifying. I can't even imagine.
Oh, horrifying! No, it's so fun. Well, I mean, if it's like I love it. Because I don't think there's anything better in the world than a first kiss. And so
Right?
when you get to like have first kisses on screen and you get to shoot it a bunch of times. So
oh God, I think that would be awful.
I've never done that. I've never had one yet.
I highly recommend them. Like
Really? All right. I'm gonna see if anybody will cast romantic lead at this age.
Normally kiss. It's good. It's fun.
If you guys need anyone to practice with,
Oh gosh. Okay, so Joe.
Joe is a
Oh,
sexy
dear.
beast. He's taken, but you know, Joe, yeah, he's adorable. He's cute as a cookie.
I'm a professional though.
Oh,
course.
it's for work. That's fair. But yeah, I've never gotten to. Oh, hi, that I would kiss Doggy. My little dogs
Yeah,
can
Toki wanted to say hi. Yeah, we would kiss him, but he's really good at getting his tongue in your mouth when you're not paying attention, though. And that's not the best.
When I had my stage kiss, and again, it would have been really early. I was maybe in my mid-20s, and I had never done that. And the guy was a little older than me, and he had more experience. And I'm like, how does this work? Do you kiss with like on stage? I'm like, do you kiss with the tongue? He goes, no, you don't kiss with the tongue. I was like, how does, I mean, like, no, of course on stage, it's not going to read. So yeah, no, it was like, it was, real stupid and hokey and just lips. But yeah, I would think that would be so scary. Have people watching you kiss. Oh my God.
No, because when you're in it, you're just pretend like you're in the moment. And like, I mean, I don't think it's scary at all.
All right, interesting.
I think it's scarier to like work with squibs and have like explosives wired to your body and then like fake done. That's scary, but I can kiss all day long.
So okay, so all right, I'm gonna give you both a choice because both of you have. I mean, I know that you've done some of it, but Sasha, you've done both. You could either do a kissing scene or covered in blood and do a murder scene. What would you do?
Oh, murder scene.
Oh, an erotic murder scene.
Oh, an erotic murder scene.
Right? Yeah, that'd be interesting. Mix it all together.
Yeah.
Well, I might have said this. So, Sasha, I don't usually do audiobooks, but I did one fell in my lap. I might have talked about this on the air before. They didn't know. I didn't know. And the guy that gave it to me didn't know it was an erotic book. It's a bestseller called Betrayed by Dr. Rebecca Sharp. Very, very good. And I read the female part. It was filthy. My daughter would go by my studio and she's like, were you moaning in there? I'm like, yeah. So I would get so into it. I mean, I was like, you just get really into it. I would get worked up. I was like, oh my goodness. Oh God, that is after I finished. I'm like, oh, let me just, where's the ice and lemonade? It worked me up. I mean, I definitely got it. My acting skills, it was great. I was in there, just me and the microphone.
Right? Because it's like that thing they say when you're sad, just put a smile on your face, right? Like, what did that say?
Which was this? I don't know if he meant this, but the book is called Betrayed, and it's by Dr. Rebecca Sharp, and it was a great book. So yeah, pretty fun. Yeah. So, but I mean, I just love hearing about yours and Jamie's experiences because I mean, Sasha, you've been doing this for so long, which is crazy because you're only 30, so I don't really know how.
How could I possibly have had such a career?
So we're all of us ladies are so much younger than you would think.
Mid-30s, yeah.
Yes, I am the oldest person on the screen, ladies and gentlemen. So
no, you're not the oldest person on the screen. You're 48 or something, 40, something like that.
Why are you trying to age me?
42.
Oh goodness,
I bet you I'm the oldest.
No, Sasha, I'm 53, and Jamie is near. I won't
46.
say.
I'll say I don't care. I'm 46.
I'm 54.
You only had me beat by a year, Wendy.
Oh,
And I'm a year older than her, so.
All right.
So I have a question, if I may. we were talking about the tarot cards and everything, and my daughter is into that as well, and so is my mother-in-law. And I'm trying to understand the rituals and everything. You got to sleep with the deck under, or in between your mattress for however long and everything. But then my daughter brought up the spirit boards, and she started collecting. What are the planchettes?
Oh, like Ouija boards, like spirit boards, talking boards.
Right. She doesn't call it a Ouija board. I think she calls it a spirit board, but there's like very unique planchettes that she started. Is that the right term, planchette?
Yes.
That she started collecting, like ones that are made of silver and like really cool stuff. So is there like a mass following with the cards and the boards, or is it totally different?
They certainly overlap. I would say that the cards have exploded. Like the tarot card market, and if you look on Amazon, or even if you walk into a Barnes and Noble now, you'll see there'll be like 30 decks out and for sale, where in the past there maybe would have been like 5 or 10. So I think because tarot is portable, and playing cards, you can what I mean, they're easy to take around. I would say that astrology is probably number 1 in popularity. Tarot would be number 2, and I think planchette, spirit, and talking boards, that's probably a bit of a more niche thing. That would go with like the pendulums.
Yeah, I just looked this up. That's interesting.
She has some of those too, pendulums as well. Okay, I just want to make sure my daughter's not getting into the wrong stuff here.
I know. I was looking at those too.
Although there are people that swear. I went to one of the HorrorCon, the one Fear Fest. There was a guy that wrote a book about don't get into Ouija. It will invite spirits and you'll die a horrible death.
Yeah, we all saw the 80s movie Witchboard with, who was it, Tawny Katane and the guy from Days of Our Lives. And yeah, my sister had a crush on the guy that played Patch on Days of Our Lives, and he was in that movie. So at like 8 years old, I had to sit down through this movie and go,
oh, you poor thing.
Yeah, no, I was looking at Tawny Katane. But anyway.
That's interesting. I mean, I'd never seen that. Planchettes. Is that what that's called? Planchettes? I looked it up.
I think it's interesting when people think that a Ouija board is a gateway for something bad or evil, like spirits. I think here's a fun fact that almost anybody would kind of confirm is that there's nothing, I don't think anybody has ever encountered anything with a ghost hurting them in a way that's hurt them more than an actual other human being has hurt them. Right. We've all been hurt by humans way more than by ghosts, energies, archetypal, and you know what I mean? So the idea that you should be terrified of the invisible world or what may lay just in the shadows is kind of ridiculous.
And I also find that interesting. I mean, I realize it would work as a tool. If there was going to be something that was going to cause you ill will or harm, why would it more likely come through on a board than it would if it was
Exactly. Hello, have you met your mother-in-law? No, I'm just kidding. I love my mother-in-law.
Derek, you're right. I think The Exorcist starts with Regan using a Ouija board. Ouija, whatever. However.
That was and it's true. And then didn't the whole story about Linda Blair, when she was young, she psychosomatically felt like she got very. She thought she was possessed, or
but she was tortured as a kid actress. She was tortured.
Was she really? Yeah, I mean, I haven't read enough about that. I just knew a little bit about that story.
Well, Eileen Dietz has been on the show a few times, and when you actually see Pazuzu's face, that's Eileen Dietz, and when some of the thrashing up and down is Eileen Dietz as well.
Was she the one that was? She played Regan. Was that her? The actress.
She played Regan in some of the parts where she's thrashing around, but
the parts where she said,
Pazuzu's face, when it.
I didn't know that was her. Okay,
yeah, that's Eileen. She's a great woman.
Wow, I didn't know that was her. Interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. I'd love to hear some of those stories, but I heard that story that she had, believed some of the stuff and we just couldn't handle that.
From what I understand, she got thrashed around a lot, and she was injured a few times, and compared to today's standards, it would never happen.
Well, they have to be very careful. Sasha, have you ever had an on-set, doing some of the stuff that you've done, getting blood soaked and, stabbing? Have you had to be
hurt?
I saw you in Mama's Boy. That was good.
I haven't been hurt. I have witnessed a possession though. Not on a movie set, but in a Baptist church service, which
Tell us.
my husband was doing. He's a photographer and a sometimes filmmaker, and he was doing a documentary on a Baptist church out in Long Island, actually. And so I went out for the service, and it was one of those. It was like fabulous. They had like the church band, and it was hands raising a G. The energy was really high, and it was unmistakable. I felt it before I saw it, and I knew exactly what it was. A woman was possessed, and it was violent and disturbing and wild. It was wild to see. And after the service was over, we went to Pastor Derek and we're like, she was right. We saw possession, right? And he's like, yeah, because usually it like helps the parishioners, like they feel better after. He's like, she needs to pray. She's gonna need to pray this week. Like it was a particularly intense possession.
Was she like thrashing around? Like what happened?
Yeah, it was incredibly violent. I mean, it was just like you would see in a movie, like a spirit had overtaken her, and so she was surrounded by people. They put they held up fabric around her. They gave her space to lie down, and she essentially, she convulsed for most of the, in the midst of the rest of the service, she was convulsing for most of the time.
Wow.
It was intense. It was wild. It's very cool. And it's an interesting thing. Like, so you look at that and you say, well, okay, is that a learned behavior?
Right.
Is that psychological? Is it both? Is like a psychotic break in one culture is a possession in another, and all of it. One thing is for sure at the end of that episode, I do feel like she released whatever that thing was. I think it's fascinating. It's fascinating. It was wonderful.
I will say, and I don't know if I've shared it on the show, and I'll try to keep it because it's not about me. I will say this one thing. I had maybe 22 years old. I astrally projected once. I only did it once. I was very aware, and I went to the doorway. I felt floating or whatever, I guess it was. And I saw this shadowy figure. I didn't know what it was. It looked like a big 3D shadow with this is very strange. I'm going to tell you this. Like it looked like a hat and a coat, like a spy. So I find out I was petrified, and my eyes snapped open. Whatever it was, it just felt evil. I found out that there's something that people have seen, and they call it Hat Man, and I've seen it. It's exactly what I saw that time. I never actually projected again, and I would hear the same sensation where it sounds like you're buzzing in your ear, and ever since that, if I go to bed on my back and I hear buzzing, any kind of static, I immediately get up because I don't want to astrally project.
Were you purposely astrally projecting?
I was reading a lot of Edgar Cayce and Shirley MacLaine, and I was like, I'm going to try. So that night I tried, and it happened, and it scared me so much. So the presence that I saw was something some people believe it's a demon. Some people believe it's an alien. I can tell you that it was real, and whatever it was I saw was very real. I don't know what it was.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like that with night terrors. I don't know if you guys have ever experienced night terrors.
Yes.
Yeah. It's there are people that have had more horrifying episodes than me, and that was just one thing. But yeah, that's specifically common to what I've just talked about. People get a lot like sleep paralysis, but it was not a dream. It was very real.
And then so again, like harkening back to the practical part about like witchcraft or any kind of spiritual practice where you're kind of moving between worlds, like that teaches you to have safeguards, right? So that like you can have like a protective energy that you can call into. You can have a series of checks within your body. So one thing for me that I think has always been fascinating for my experience and teaching it too is where's the line between the creative imagination and an experience actually happening, Like I find that really fascinating because for me, I want it when something's really happening. I want to know what's really happening. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, so I think that creating boundaries and being comfortable in spooky spaces, that's a lot of shadow work because when
Okay.
you're dealing with energies that are not necessarily manifest in a way that we're comfortable with in the material world, it's terrifying. But but in a way, it's really just encountering the unknown. So if you can do baby steps where you know that you're safe, you can, if you want, to go into those spaces and start to kind of explore a little bit and see what's there. You start to, I think, really understand that just because something is unfamiliar or
I
dark
want to go see Daddy.
doesn't mean it's scary.
Well,
But that's not necessarily for like noobs. So, how far into your journey do you start doing this stuff?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Oh, well, like how far? I mean, I think that if you're purposely going on a journey, you create the balance. So I always say it's like using your street smarts in New York City, right? If you're walking down, 38th Street between Second and Third Avenue at 2 a.m., it's a much different. You walk and protect yourself differently than on a Sunday brunch afternoon. So you're aware, you have your protective energies, and you know how to exit the situation if you need to.
Okay, interesting.
And so very diligently you go as far as feels comfortable to you. And that's why things like yoga and the breath, the breath is what keeps us grounded in the physical body, and the physical body is what keeps us rooted in this world, will keep you off the edge of kind of insanity, right? Because that's the other thing about in between world experiences, you can walk right up to that gulf where you're like, wow, if I step one foot further, I might devolve into like a full-on psychotic break. So you have to be, I think, strong and smart, and yeah. But then it's up to you. It's up to you how far you want to go. But you have to know yourself, and you have to. But in all witchcraft, it's all about taking responsibility. Witchcraft, all of it. It's not about manipulating the world. It's about putting yourself in a space where you can have things happen. Yeah.
I like that. It's creating your own energy in your own space. I think that's a neat thing to take with me from tonight. Because yes, I find it. There can be some situations, whether it's I did downtown ghost tours here. I led them. It was a lot of fun. I loved it, and we saw stuff. We didn't go in places, but I'm like, if I did, I probably would have been scared. But that would have been the time to create your own space if you're in something unfamiliar and spooky, because we saw things. But I think that's fascinating. And
it's good to see things. Do you know what I mean? Like the same way you want to explore the world, you should explore the invisible world, especially if it's something that you find you can do. Why wouldn't you do that? I think to me it gives me comfort. It gives me comfort in knowing that there's so much more than meets the eye.
That there's things beyond our senses. That's the other thing about probably with yoga and meditating. And I mean, the future, it's hard for me. I'm not, and the times in my life that I've ever let myself do that, I found that it was a wonderful experience, if I could bring myself to that, because you kind of almost get this third eye. Is that maybe just, you can see things clearly. You're able to,
yeah, I think it's different for everybody, and it's hard. We're talking about things that really kind of defy description in language. Is not really our friend when it comes to otherworldly experiences. I think poetry and art and music is probably a better way to kind of describe these experiences that are essentially indescribable. If I talk to you about, oh yeah, I was in the Metropolitan Museum of Art and a statue started communicating with me. What do you mean it was talking? No, the statue wasn't talking, but there was how do you explain that? It's hard to do, but yoga and breath work and meditation brings you into play, and especially when you're doing it on the regular. It changes the attunements in your body, and you wind up I think being able to cultivate space around you And then that space, that silence, you can use for a myriad of different things, whether it's magic or exploration or just understanding the difference between your thoughts and your emotion and your thinking mind and you being the active observer of what's going on around you, it just moves into the heart of mystery and sacred experience, which it's wild, it's wild and woolly and fabulous.
I love it. And I encourage everybody to get one of your books, look it up and look at it's like eye candy just to look at the illustrations. Like I love all of the things that go with I want to dig into, I'm going to get her book, but the tarot decks are just beautiful. The books are beautiful. Actually, speaking of which, Joe, it's probably time for us to ask Sasha, what are some things you'd like to, you talked about a little bit about to promote what's coming up with your books and your lectures, movies, films. Go ahead. Give us some things.
Oh,
You
yeah.
have the floor.
I've got the whole
There
screen.
you are, the whole screen.
Hello, everyone. Annually, twice a year, I teach tarot and yoga retreats at Kripalu Center for Yoga and Health in the Berkshires. My co-teacher is Allison DeNicola, who's an Oracle deck creator. So that's usually in January, February. And then a week-long version will be in July. I'll be in New Orleans teaching at HexFest in the middle of August. I'm headlining some tarot conferences in 2024. I'll be speaking at the Kingston Tarot Lenormand in Kingston, Ontario in the fall of 24. I'll be doing a main stage presentation at the Reader Studio here in New York City. You can find me at sashagraham.com. I often will do things like online or have things coming out. Oh my God, this is so much pressure. Where did everybody go? Thank you.
We're back. Go ahead. Keep going. Now sing. Go ahead. Sing a song.
What?
I said sing. I want to put you under pressure. Go ahead. Sing.
No, let me kiss someone instead. Just want to do.
Well, I enjoyed this. I learned a lot. What about you, Joe and Jaime?
Oh no, let's put Jaime on the spot.
Put me on the spot.
Yeah, go
Wow.
ahead.
Jaime doesn't talk a lot.
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
made it tough.
you guys got not a lot of stuff on me. I live in Alberta right now. BC is on the left side of those big Rocky Mountains. Those beautiful Rocky Mountains have some beautiful trees and lakes. I grew up in British Columbia. I grew up with the Kootenays, the lake. I didn't have TV. I didn't have movies. I watched some scary movies in the 80s, but once the 90s came, I wasn't really watching TV. And I know what tarot cards are. Nelson, BC is the most wonderful energy in British Columbia, and everybody will go there. And that's where we would go to get anything we needed, whether it was tarot cards or candles or hemp, anything. And it started in the 90s.
Oh wow! So a very spiritual kind of a metaphysical.
Oh, very much so. Very much so. A few of my friends had their kids on the grass. It's just
Oh,
very
wow.
natural and homey out there. Yeah.
Oh, that's wow. I could say that I'm very spiritual and metaphysical, but having no epidurals have to happen. So
Agreed.
Well, my wife and daughter actually have a small business called Hearts of the Mystic Folk, and they actually make room sprays and scented wax,
melts.
all natural scented waxes and room sprays, and it's all revolving around what we're discussing tonight. So it's kind of cool.
Oh yeah, you'll have to link that, Joe, because I do want to get. They look delicious. I mean, like I would. The problem is with those wax melts. When I see them, I've seen like David would link them. I want to eat them. They look so good.
They changed it up a little now. They're pellets, so they don't look like candy bars anymore.
Like a candy bar. I'd eat it. I still would. I don't know.
But yeah, they're getting into the stones and everything, and it's really cool. So that's why I really wanted to be on here tonight to like share this and experience this, because I'm still trying to get a better understanding of it. My daughter will explain it to me as a daughter to a father, instead trying to like get it through your thick skull, man. This is what we're doing. It's not hocus pocus. It's like, okay, all right, I got you. And I've hung out with a bunch of horror folks at all these conventions and everything, and some of the guys, Bill Slevin, who I met recently, he's on the Learning Channel with some of these, and it's fascinating. I'm sorry.
I think that's very cool. Well, I feel like that's too bad that we're all four corners. We could each call a corner right now.
Right. And I mean, I would be highly disappointed if Sasha didn't join us again. So
I would love
that out
Sasha for you. Yeah, she's amazing, right? Like I knew I had already James, she's one of you guys are like the oldest of friends. I mean, you've worked together since you were in your 20s or barely.
Oh, wow.
And so I'd heard about you for all of this time, and I'd seen all of her work, and I was so excited to finally meet her in person. And I loved you immediately, just like that.
Likewise. Thank you so much for having me on. It means the world. Yeah.
Well, and you know what? Next time we do it, we'll have you bring some of your stuff and demonstrate. Ooh, we could really dig deep. Joe, yes, and that you could bring your daughter on, and we'll have
the
Sasha
books and the tarot cards and.
Forget
moving some portals and
just go Wiccan all the way.
And then I'm 5'10", almost 300 pounds. I got to get into the whole yoga thing, but that's kind of complicated.
It's totally beautiful. The whole like skinny, muscly yoga thing. That's just like an Instagram construct.
Okay, thanks. Because I have a bad back, so you'll have to tell me some good poses to do for my shot back, which I had surgery on. So Joe, we could still do yoga. Evidently we're not excluded. We can do it.
Totally.
Well, I thank you, Sasha, Jamie, Joe. It's been like so fun. I laughed, I cried, better than cats. I'd go again and again. So thanks for joining us tonight. Joe, anything you want to say before we outro?
I do. Actually, again, everybody who's joining us this evening, please go to our socials, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, the Indie Escape Network.
That one.
I actually got those right. Wendy, where can we find you on social media?
Well, the good news is I think I have Instagram. The bad news is I have no idea where to find it. I'm on Facebook, but certainly if anybody wants to hire me as a voice talent, wendyvoices.com. And, that's about it. I have some film stuff, but, nothing to write home about these days, I guess.
All right, Jamie, social media, where can they find you?
Instagram's my favorite, jamie.hill.vo, and Clubhouse, if you actually want to chat. I'm always on Clubhouse, and send me a message.
All right, Sasha, one more time, please. Social media and websites.
Instagram, love it. I'm Sasha Tarot Diva on Instagram, on Facebook, SashaGram1, I think. And then my website, SashaGram.com.
All right. And we've got a few more comments. Great show, ladies and Joe. Wow, I like how Joe's thrown in it. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Libby.
Joe is going to have to add threads to the media.
Oh, threads is the new, people are talking about that.
Yeah.
I've heard,
I'm going to have to learn about that.
Yeah.
Yep, we have to learn that, you guys.
We gotta
get our old brains into this new stuff.
Wendy, take us out.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We had Sasha Graham, the beautiful Jamie Hill, and the gorgeous man candy himself, Joe Ridgely. And we will see you, I think, in 2 weeks. We're going to have our buddy Matt Burns on, and he's going to have some people from one of his films. We're going to talk to him. And Sasha, we're going to have you on again. So thanks, guys, and have a good one.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we will see you next time.